Imagine stepping onto the biggest stage in football. Millions watching from their living rooms, their phones. Your name stitched across the back of a jersey that kids beg their parents for at Christmas. Now imagine that same guy, a few years earlier, on his knees on a dusty street corner, shining a stranger's shoes for spare change, hoping it's enough to bring home for dinner. Hold up, we can't just drop that on you and move on. Let's rewind. Because before the boots, the trophies, and the Instagram mansions, some of the greatest footballers on earth were doing jobs you'd never guess in a million years. Jobs that had nothing to do with football and everything to do with survival. And it starts with the king himself. Back in the 1950s, in a small, dusty town called Bauru, in the Brazilian countryside, there was a skinny kid who couldn't even afford a real football. So what did he do? He stuffed an old sock with newspaper, tied it together with string, and played barefoot in the street with the other neighborhood kids, dreaming of a game he could barely afford to play. But dreams don't fill stomachs. That same kid had a family to help feed, so every single day, before and after those street matches, he'd set up on a corner and shine shoes for anyone willing to pay a few coins. When that wasn't enough, he picked up extra work at a local tea shop, sweeping floors and running errands just to bring something home. That kid's name? Edson Arantes do Nascimento. You know him as Pelé. 3 World Cups, over 1,000 career goals. A name that would one day be spoken in the same breath as the greatest of all time. And it all started with a shoe brush in his hand and newspaper wrapped around his feet. But if you think that's rough, wait till you hear about Cristiano Ronaldo. Growing up on the island of Madeira, in a small, cramped house with his parents and 3 siblings, life was tight. His mom worked long hours as a cook just to keep food on the table. And his dad wasn't exactly living the dream either. He was the kit man for the local club, Andorinha, washing muddy jerseys, cleaning boots, and looking after equipment for a team he could never afford to actually watch as a fan with money to spend. So when little Cristiano finally got scouted and moved across the ocean to Lisbon at just 12 years old, alone, without his family, you'd think things got easier. They didn't. He was broke, painfully homesick, crying himself to sleep some nights, and living in a cramped academy dorm with very little money to his name. So he and his friends used to walk to a McDonald's near the stadium late at night, not to buy food, because they simply couldn't afford it, but to quietly ask the staff if there were any leftover burgers going spare after closing time. That same kid, once relying on leftover fast food scraps just to get through the week, became the most followed human being on the entire planet, with hundreds of millions of people watching his every move. Now here's one that'll really mess with your head, because Vinicius Jr. never really had the chance to work a normal job in the first place. Football simply consumed everything. Growing up in São Gonçalo, a working-class city just outside Rio de Janeiro, football wasn't a hobby for his family. It was survival. It was hope. It was the one shot they had at a better future. By the age of 10, he was making long, exhausting trips across the city, sometimes hours each way, just to train at Flamengo's academy, while his parents sacrificed everything they could: time, money, comfort to keep that dream alive. No paycheck, no shift work, no side hustle, just relentless, single-minded dedication from an entire family. And it turned him into a Champions League final hero before he'd even turned 22, scoring the winning goal on the biggest stage in club football. But not every legend was discovered as a kid with a golden boot already in his future. Some had to grind through jobs most of us have actually had ourselves. Take Jamie Vardy. At 16, Sheffield Wednesday released him, telling him flat out he was too small to make it as a professional. Most people would have taken that as a sign to give up and move on with a normal life. Instead, Vardy took a full-time job in a factory making medical sprints, clocking in at 6 a.m., working long shifts on the production line during the week, and then playing for a non-league club in England's 8th tier on the weekends for next to nothing. He did that for years. Years of factory floors and Sunday league pitches with no guarantee it would ever lead anywhere. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, Leicester City took a chance and signed him. A few seasons later, this former factory worker was lifting the Premier League trophy after Leicester won the title at odds of 5,000 to 1, still considered one of the greatest sports stories ever told anywhere in the world. And speaking of almost quitting, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, at just 15 years old, seriously considered walking away from football entirely to work at the docks in Malmo, loading and unloading cargo for a steady, guaranteed paycheck, because football felt like a gamble his family couldn't afford. Fortunately, the people around him, coaches, family, friends, who saw something special, convinced him to stick with it just a little longer. Imagine that. One decision, one conversation could have gone the other way, and the most arrogant, acrobatic, larger-than-life striker of a generation ends up hauling shipping containers instead of bicycle kicking his way into football history and headlines around the world. So next time you watch Ronaldo peel off his shirt after a hat trick, or Vinicius dancing past 3 defenders like they're not even there, remember some of these guys once shined shoes for spare change, relied on leftover burgers just to eat, or clocked into a factory long before the world ever learned their names. And honestly, these aren't even the wildest stories footballers are hiding. There's more stories about betrayal, poverty, near career-ending injuries, and comebacks that sound made up. So if you want to see the stories your favorite players never talk about, you already know what to do. Watch this video next, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.